Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe and this is the news from Old Trafford this morning. Not bad weather today, not particularly cold, no real sunshine to speak of either though. We're going to be taking you through updates on Raphael Varane, updates on Paul Pogba as France crash out of Euro 2020. I was deciding whether to use a crash, whether to use bowed out. I think it depends on the stature of the club they lost to. And losing to Switzerland, they certainly crashed out. We'll be looking at his performance and some of the accolades and criticisms Paul Pogba has been getting. Also, update on Ethan Galbraith. He looks to be going on loan next season. And, I'm not sure if you can see it in the background, they are repainting Old Trafford. I thought we'd never see the day. Let's go for it. Right, first up then, let's have a look at Paul Pogba, who finally gets a little bit of rest going into the new season. That's one way of looking at it. France crashed out to Switzerland 5-4 on penalties after a 3-3 draw after extra time yesterday in Euro 2020. Now, I've been seeing some, people on Twitter, pundits, these sorts of people, saying Paul Pogba took too many risks. Paul Pogba did this, Paul Pogba did that. Paul Pogba was by far the best player on the pitch yesterday for anyone, for either team. He scored a goal, he made some sensational passes that there are only a handful of people in the world capable of making as consistently as he does. He was brilliant for France yesterday, but let's look at this from a United perspective. He gets to have a rest. He gets to go into the new season fresher than most. It could have been another 2 weeks in the tournament for him if France had gone all the way to the final like a lot of people expected them to do. Let's have a look at some of these stats then, because according to Squawka, for Paul Pogba for France at the Euros, he had the most touches, the most passes, the most recoveries, the most duels won, the most passes into the final third, the most through balls, the most open play chances created, and the most big chances created. He was their best player this tournament. And they had this thing with, is it going to be Rabiot, is it Tolisso, is it a left back, is it a right back, are they playing through at the back? He was the main consistency. Mbappe was terrible, Kante was his normal self, he was good as well. But in terms of creating, it basically all fell onto Paul Pogba, and he almost did enough to get them through. And again, we've spoke about it before, but this thing about him being one player for France and one player for Man United. I saw someone tweet yesterday, after the Pogba goal had gone in, so it's 3-1, looks as though France are cruising through. People tweeting, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has to take some blame for this. Take some blame for what? They were winning 3-1. So in some people's heads, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has to take some of the blame for Paul Pogba playing well for France. Why is there any blame to be attributed to that? And again, let's not forget, Paul Pogba has had many a good game in a Manchester United shirt. And when he's playing like he was last night, when the stakes are high and he's putting his best shift in, he's almost unplayable. Now, unfortunately for him, or unfortunately for him, the rest of the France squad were playable and they sort of crumbled and then lost that penalty shootout. But Paul Pogba gets a well-deserved rest, going into the new season fresh, and hopefully we can see what we already do see of Paul Pogba, which is a brilliant player, more often next season, assuming this contract gets signed. Next up then, let's have a look at Paul Pogba's countryman, Raphael Varane. Now this is the big one really, and this is coming from a journalist and presenter in Spain who works for Marca. He is saying that the agreement between Manchester United and Real Madrid for Varane is total, as in, we've agreed this deal. Now, let's have a look who exactly is saying this and why they're saying it. Now, this comes out after France have just lost to Switzerland on penalties, so there is some impetus, some onus to create a story of movement, of uncertainty, of unsettlement around Raphael Varane, which I don't blame them for doing. Again, Pipi Estrada is the guy who's saying this, who is notoriously a bit of a twat and a bit not the most reliable ever. So again, I'm not going to say that I agree with him. I'm not going to say that this deal is done by any means. But what we do know is that Manchester United are working hard for Raphael Varane. More reports last night coming out saying that Manchester United's number one target after Jadon Sancho, because that deal's done, by the way. We're not even mentioning Jadon Sancho, although I have mentioned him. That deal's done. The next number one target is Raphael Varane. Fabrizio Romano told us that. Fabrizio Romano has spoken about that in length. A lot of journalists and outlets have reported that Varane is the next target, and they're looking at around a £45 million fee. Again, this is just the latest update, and Pipi Estrada is saying that the agreement between Manchester United and Real Madrid for Raphael Varane is total. Now, that doesn't necessarily take into account whether Raphael Varane wants to join Manchester United, but hopefully that can just be a formality. we'll have to wait and see. Right, next up then, a bit of youth news. And first of all, Sunderland step up their pursuit of Manchester United youngster Ethan Galbraith. Now, this is according to the Sunderland Chronicle, and they're saying that the Black Cats are among a number of clubs to have made contact with the Red Devils over a potential loan. They're looking to get Ethan Galbraith. He's 20 years old now, so it's sort of that kind of not quite make or break time yet for him, but at some point, once you hit that 20 mark, you need to kind of prove you can get minutes somewhere. Sunderland might be a good shout for him there, so let's hope that deal can come off and hope that he can get some good minutes and put himself in the thoughts of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for the season after next. Another player that is linked with Sunderland but isn't going there, he came from there, is Joe Hugill. The 17-year-old striker has reportedly ready to agree a 3-year contract extension at Manchester United. That's according to Lawyer Whitwell. He's been playing for the under-23s. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer mentioned him last season. It looks as though he's going to be coming on pre-season for United this summer as well, so he's going to get a chance to prove himself on a much bigger stage than he's ever had before. Again, Joe Hugill looking like he's going to be signing a new 3-year deal at Manchester United. Very good news there. And finally then, it looks as though Old Trafford is actually getting a much needed lick of paint. You can see them behind us, you can see those cranes there. We saw a couple of weeks ago that they would look like they were spraying some of the moss and dirt off of those white cantilevers that you can see there on the east stand. And now I can confirm they're being painted. So, you know, the Glazers have come out and spoke about investment in the stadium. We're going to get some new floodlights. You know, we're not going up to 100,000 seat or anything like that like people might have wanted, but at least, you know, some of the dirt is being removed. And it looks as though, you can see there, I'm not sure you can see, we should be able to get some footage. It looks as though some of the paint has actually been removed. You can see the grey metal underneath there. I wonder if maybe when the cleaning process took place, they realised it was a bit more of a job than they thought, and they decided to paint the whole thing, or whether this was always part of the plan. But hopefully, Old Trafford will be looking a little bit fresher for the start of the new season. Remains to be seen exactly what goes on the north stand down there. Some discolouring on a lot of the metal work. You know, I'm not going to expect too much at once, but it's nice to see a little bit of something going on at least. Some very big cranes there and people painting the metal and the infrastructure there at Old Trafford, which, you know, it's not the biggest news ever, but it's some good news, I suppose, and it makes you feel a little bit better stood outside here every morning like we do. A slightly nicer view to look down on, hopefully, in the coming days. Right, that's going to be all from me today. Of course, worth watching tonight, Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire both set to start for England against Germany in the round of 16 of Euro 2020. Looking like a back five according to reports. Shaw on the left, Maguire on the left side of that centre-back three as well. So we should get that little partnership continuing for England. Maguire I thought was brilliant the other night. So look out for that tonight at 5 o'clock. Don't be tricked as well. It's an early kick-off. We're going to be back tonight as well for Transfers Live. Alex and Stephen Howson will be coming to you after the England game. So make sure you check them out. There's going to be some sort of fallout to that one. Whether we lost, whether we won, that's what we're going to be talking about. So make sure you check that out tonight on Stretford Paddock Live. Thank you very much for joining me. Let me know your thoughts on these stories. Do you think this Raphael Varane deal has legs? Again, the bloke talking about it today isn't necessarily the most reliable, but what we do know is this one is still going on. United do want him. The fee isn't too high. The Sancho deal looks to be done so we can start focusing on other things. It could happen if you ask me. And again, Old Trafford's looking a little bit better. Hopefully we can get some more good results here next season. Thank you very much for joining me. We'll see you in a bit.